morning, traders. I'm Emily Vani, the CEO of the Investment Banking Institute and your host here at NewsWare's Trade Talk. Joining me is trading anchor Bill Olson, who brings more than 30 years of institutional trading experience to our program. At Trade Talk, we provide the facts, themes, and trading ideas for the day ahead. Today is Friday, May 17th. Stocks are coming off a lower but ultimately muted session yesterday. The Dow lost 38 points or 0.1%. The Nasdaq gave up 44 points or about 0.25%. The S&P 500 closed in the red by 11 points or just less than 0.25%. Bill, let's get into Friday's action with what is happening in the markets this morning.
Hi, yes. Good morning, Emily. I'm watching the S&Ps. The S&Ps they're green. They're flat to higher. We're up 0.07%. Not 0.1%, but it is showing a gain. So we like to see that. I mean, today we got a lot of like little pieces going on. I mean, we're going to be paying a lot of attention to Fed speakers and corporate developments today. You got that Fed Governor Waller, who's going to be speaking today, and he typically likes to make speeches that create volatility when he speaks. You see the market kind of move when he speaks. So that's something that I will be paying attention to. And then you got a lot of corporate news like Microsoft. I mean, they're going to be offering cloud computing customers the option of using AI chips from AMD instead of Nvidia. They got that conference coming up next week. I mean, there's more stuff on Microsoft going on today that is really interesting. You got that Reddit news. Reddit announced a deal with OpenAI last night. That was rather interesting because now OpenAI is going to have access to all of Reddit's content, and yeah, that's a good source of revenue for Reddit. So that was nice to see. Earnings action last night kind of underwhelming, I would say. China announced that long-awaited stimulus package to help that they needed to help shore up the property markets. It looked like it's was reacted positively from the Asian markets. I mean, we're looking at overseas markets this morning. We're showing the DAX. The DAX is down 62 points or 0.33%. We're showing the FTSE down 34 points or 0.42%. We're showing the CAC down 36 points or 0.45%. I mean, they're reacting to some hawkish comments from an ECB official. It does appear there's going to be a rate cut in June, but after that, it's like they're not commenting. They're like, we got to wait and see what happens. We're not sure if this is the right thing, but since they already promised to do it, they're going to do it. But after that, for the rest of the year, it's kind of on hold. So they're not on a path to lower rates. They're just doing maybe a one and done. And so, markets are a little bit concerned about that. And then they had the inflation data coming out of Europe as well this morning. Last night in Asia, I mean, the Nikkei dropped 132 points. It's 0.34%. Not really too concerned because this is the first move lower in 5 days. I mean, it was trading higher. It was on a 5-day winning streak. Hong Kong, on the other hand, moved up 0.9% or 177 points. China moved up 31 points, which is a little over 1%. China's industrial production expanded by 6.7% year over year in April. Now the market was expecting an increase of 5.5%, so it's 6.7. Wow, that's great. Unemployment also dropped to 5%. It was 5.2. Retail sales were a little weak, but that's okay. But that the stimulus plan that they came out with, they're going to be easing restrictions on, rules that they have for first-time buyers of homes. The local governments are going to be pushed to purchase unsold homes from builders, and they lowered the down payment, requirements for first-time home builders. So they did some nice moves to stimulate, and as a result, you did see the property sector stocks move higher last night. Oil prices, we're keeping an eye on oil prices as always. Oil prices are flat. I mean, they are green, but they're flat. You got WTI at $79.27, up, a nickel. You got Brent at $83.32, up a nickel. Nothing crazy, but oil is on track for a 1% weekly gain. And we have that, Baker Hughes report coming out, an oil report this afternoon. We'll have to see. But yeah, I get that. That's what's going on in oil. That's what I have for you in terms of a morning market update report, Emily.
Bill, at the very opening of that, you said something interesting. There's sort of a lot of little things going on today, and I couldn't help but think, what a perfect thing to use Newsware for. If there aren't these major headline making catalysts, you want to look for a direction in the trading day, and using Newsware is the perfect way to do that, to dig into the smaller details, things like earnings action, the economic events, but then other types of market moving news. And we're going to get to all of that here on today's show. In terms of earnings action, again, like you said, a little bit underwhelming, but give us a rundown of what we should be watching when it comes to earnings.
Okay, well, let's start off with Take-Two Interactive, TTWO, Tom William Oscar. Listen, the stock's down 2.79%. They delivered a big miss on earnings and they guided lower. It was just not a pretty report. Then you got AMAT, Applied Materials, which is the one the street was really waiting for, but they delivered a beat at 25 cents. They did it on higher revenue, but you look at the stock this morning and it's trading lower. It's actually down 1.23%. This is why I can't trade these stocks on earnings when, especially some of these high tech ones, because, the bar is so high for them that you got to be cautious going into them on earnings. So, AMAT, falling on what was on paper to be, positive reports, but upcoming. Monday morning is a little bit light. There's nothing this afternoon, but Monday afternoon we got Zoom Video Communications, ticker ZM, Zebra, Michael. EPS is $1.19. Expected move is 9.50%. They don't really have a path to really gauge significant growth. There's a lot of competition out there for them, but they do have a revenue stream. They are number one, I would think. But it's tough. It's a tough one to watch. And then you got Keysight Technologies, Keys, ticker KEYS. They're coming out Monday afternoon. Their EPS is $1.38. Expected move is 8.45%. You got Trip.com, ticker TCOM, Tom, Charlie, Oscar, Michael. Their EPS is 62 cents. It was an expected move of 10%. Remember, this is about China travel. I think this could be surprise people. Palo Alto Networks, PANW, Paul Apple, Nancy William. They're also reporting Monday afternoon. Their EPS is $1.25, and the expected move here is 10.25% when they release Monday afternoon. But that's what I have for you in terms of earnings action, Emily.
Now we're going to turn to economic events. It's obviously been a big week for economic data and Fed speak, sort of rounding out the week here with a few reports. And as you mentioned, some Fed speak that could move the markets. So, Bill, what should we be watching when it comes to economic events?
But hey, the calendar's kind of light today. We know that. I mean, at 10 a.m., you got e-commerce retail sales, not a major report. You got leading indicators at 10 a.m. as well, not a major report. And then at 1 p.m., we get the Baker Hughes rig count data coming out in terms of Fed speak. 10:15 a.m., we're going to be hearing from Fed Governor Christopher Waller. And then at 12:15 p.m. Eastern time, we're going to be hearing from San Francisco Fed Bank President Mary Daly. Looking ahead to next week on the economic data on Wednesday, we're going to get the meeting minutes. That's going to be interesting because those meeting minutes were prior to the recent inflation report. So, and prior to that, the Fed speak was rather negative, was rather hawkish going into the FOMC meeting, and I suspect we're going to see a lot of reiteration of that in the Fed meeting notes, and they're going to be talking about dot plot being dropped as well going forward because they were very cautious. Yesterday, we heard from Richmond Fed Bank President Thomas Barkin, who said that the U.S. Central Bank needs to keep borrowing costs elevated for longer in order to lower inflation to its 2% target. Loretta Muster, she came out and said that her business service contacts in the Midwest are starting to become more upbeat on where the economy is going. But she reiterated the Fed's line that the Fed needs to keep its interest rates higher for longer. And, she thinks it's now going to be taking longer to reach its 2% goal. I don't know if she really believes that or if this is, just her line that she's keeping with because, she is part of the Fed and they are trying to speak in unison. Well, remember, she's leaving at the end of June. I mean, she's set to retire at the end of June. So, I would think now is the time for her to come out and say her true feelings. But, she did say that, her contacts in the Midwest feel that, the economy's in better shape. So that's what I have for you in terms of economic updates, Emily.
Keeping track of all of that, Bill. And as we mentioned, other details on the day. Things like merger news, guidance news, buyback news, other catalysts. You're looking at stocks grouped together like your FANG stocks and your Dow 30 stocks. So, Bill, what else do you see is possibly moving the markets today?
I'm just doing a quick data check. I'm seeing like, 22 Dow stocks higher, five or lower, the rest unchanged. It's kind of positive momentum going into the day in terms of the FANG stocks. Apple, Amazon, and Netflix are showing some gains, whereas in Meta, Tesla, and Google are showing some weakness. Okay, so the S&Ps and the Dow do not have to, work in unison. We know that. But it is interesting to see the differences there. Um, Turning into like the stocks that are moving the market today. I mean, we want to start off with um, Apple because there's this big story out there about Sony Music. They sent a letter to more than 700 AI company developers and music streaming platforms around the world, warning, hey, don't be using our content without permission. They're going to sue if they find out AI companies are using songs that are in their catalog without their permission. Google, TikTok came out and they tested a 60-minute video, which is kind of a challenge to YouTube. So we'll have to see if TikTok continues to move on that. And then there's Tesla. Elon Musk is pushing for plans for China data to power Tesla's AI push. Okay. Let's talk about Dow Jones 30 stocks. Microsoft, UK regulators cleared Microsoft's partnership with Mistrial AI. Mistrial AI merger doesn't qualify for an investigation, according to the UK regulators. Boeing, ticker BA, supplier Spirit Aerosystems, they're going to be laying off hundreds of workers. It looks like you're looking at shares of Boeing trading a little higher this morning. McDonald's, ticker MCD, Michael Charlie David. Remember, they introduced that $5 meal deal. Now that deal is going to start towards the end of late June, and it's expected to increase store traffic, which is really what they want to see. So yeah, you got to be positive on McDonald's. If there's some weakness between now and then, you can see some gains coming in McDonald's towards the end of June. Microsoft just throwing out there that their conference starts next week on Tuesday. They get that Microsoft Build conference that I'm paying attention to. In terms of merger news, we want to talk about Snowflake, ticker SNOW, Sam Noss, Nancy Oscar William. They're said to be in talks to buy Rika AI for $1 billion. Now, Rika AI was started by researchers from Google and Meta in 2022. So it's only a 2-year-old company. They're going to be fetching like a $1 billion price tag. Wow, that's nice. Flower Foods, ticker FLO, Frank Larry Oscar. They're posed to start doing deals as the confidence of the M&A environment has started to increase. Talking guidance news this morning, Cracker Barrel, ticker CRBL. They see Q3 and Q4 below previous guidance due to weak traffic. That's not good. Take Two, they came out with their Q1 EPS. What they see is a loss between $1.43 and $1.58. Street estimate was at 38 cents. Take Two is going to take it on the chin today. Then you got AMAT, ticker AMAT. They guided Q3 $1.83 to $2.19. Street estimates $1.83, so it's actually kind of positive. But you look at AMAT shares this morning; they're all over the board. Got to be concerned with that. We're talking buyback news. Ticker NVT, Nancy Victor Tom, Nvent Electronics. They announced a 3-year share repurchasing program of up to 500 million. In terms of catalyst calls, we got ANF, Abercrombie and Fitch, Apple, Nancy Frank, JP Morgan ups Abercrombie and Fitch's price target, and they place the stock in a positive catalyst watch. So that's something to keep an eye on. Shares of ANF this morning, Emily. But that's what I have for you about news hitting the tape this morning.
This is the type of data that NewsWare delivers daily. It's factual, it's market moving, and our alerting functions bring it to your attention as it happens. Go to www.newsware.com now and sign up for the trial and see for yourself the benefits that professional Newswire delivers. We've now made it to that time of the show for the Trade Talk pick of the day. Bill, what do you have for us to end this week?
I'm going to go with AMD, Apple, Michael David. That story about the Microsoft story about them, starting to offer AMD chips over as well as Nvidia chips. I think it's positive for AMD. And AMD, remember, this stock was trading 220 earlier. So it is weak. Now, as I see it, I think the stock's up by 3.28%. It's not going to open there. It's going to open a little lower. I'm hoping to get in around 163 to 160, let's say 163.50. I'm hoping that it can touch around there early in the morning. But I figure if I can get in early morning, I might be able to get a 1% gain on the stock. You're looking at yesterday's call volume. You had 784, 165 put 165 calls versus 401, 336 puts. That's almost 2 to 1. Then you get the call open interest, 1.5 million 72 versus 1.5 million 20. So it's positive on the call side. I'm concerned about the stock being up too much this morning. I do think it's going to have a gain, but I'm just waiting for that weakness to set in because I don't think it's going to be able to run right away. I do think that it could close higher on the day. I just got to wait for that entry point. I mean, it's not 160, that's for sure. I think it's more like 163. So I'm going to say 163.50. But if it hits there, that could be a great opportunity. But that's my stock of the day, AMD, for today, Emily.
AMD will watch that along with you, looking for that particular entry point and, doing it off of some news items there. Again, we will follow that with you. And coming up, we will do recap on yesterday's pick of the day. So stick with us. But ahead of that, let's take a look at the current breaking headlines that have hit the tape in our hot off the press segment. Bill, sending it back to you.
GameStop, ticker GME, stock dies 23% on Q1 results. They're doing a mixed shelf offering. BLK, Boiler Kilo, AI cloud startup CoreWeave plans to double data capacity footprint this year. Okay. Here's something. Piper Sandler, they see Fed cutting rates 3 times over the next 8 meetings. Reddit, ticker RDT, announced a licensing deal with OpenAI to allow it access to its content. Ticker WM said to be working with JP Morgan to explore the sale of its renewable natural gas unit. Toyota Motors TM, they were forced to repeatedly halt production at a Mexico plant in February and March after labor shortages snarled the output at suppliers. That's all I'm seeing this morning, Emily.
Okay, Bill, before we sign off for the weekend, let's do that check-in on yesterday's pick of the day, which was Copa Holdings. You made this pick after earnings had come out. You were expecting some momentum to play during the trading day yesterday. Bill, how did your call work out?
I mean, it did work out. I mean, listen, the stock opened up at 113. Remember, it was trading 116 in the pre-market when I made the call, and it was falling. So, I was like, I kept lowering my entry points, and it actually fell down to 106.20. Now, according to my model, I was really looking, when it started falling, 107, was really the 107.50 was really then the entry point. So I was able to get in, at 108.30, and then if you look at the stock, I mean, it did open up at 113.10, and it fell down to 106.20, and then it ran all the way up to 110.80, and it closed at 109.55. So the 1% was there for me, but that price target I gave was way off yesterday. But the volatility was there, and a lot of times with these trades, you gotta follow you got to follow the trend. And when the trend is stopping, you got to look for where it's going to stop. You got to figure out that spot. Where would it stop at? And that 107.50 area is really where I thought it would stop at. And it did fall a little. It did break through that. Falling down to 106.20. But when it started to recover, you had to go long at it. Yeah. So the 1% worked out. Just not. It wasn't a great pick because it didn't just break from the opening price and move higher, which is what we like to do, Emily.
Bill, it's still a win. We'll take that 1%. They can't all be like some of the other picks we had earlier in the week, but we will take that 1% as a win. And we will also check in with you Monday about today's AMD pick of the day. Bill, thank you as always for your expert insight. Join us back here Monday and each weekday morning next week at NewsWare's Trade Talk when we provide the facts, themes, and trading ideas for the day ahead. Again, I'm your host, Emily Vani, here with trading anchor Bill Olson. Traders, you know what to do. Let's go out there and make some green.